Coffee, baby. Okay. 3, 2, 1. What's up, guys? Here we are again. Episode number 4. Today with the tiger, Kaela Banney. So, Kaela is a mixed martial artist, BJJ fighter, instructor, Muay Thai, high-ranked Muay Thai fighter as well. If you don't know, she used to train with me a lot for the last 2 or 3 years, I think, 2 years and a half.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And now she's the guest for the podcast today. How are you, Kaela?
Good, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Kaela, I'm gonna bring up a little bit of everything. I think you have a lot to share, mainly because of you were like early age athlete. So
Yeah.
really early age, you were traveling, training, competing, and everything. So this is pretty good. But before that, I want you to introduce yourself about like a little bit like how did your life start with martial arts? How did you become like an athlete in the end of the day?
Yeah.
Multi-level champion.
Yeah, so well, it mainly all started when I was young, about probably age of 7. My dad got me into martial arts just for like a bit of self-defense. Didn't think anything of it, just wanted me to, learn how to defend myself. And I started more really like karate based, so it was very more that kind of style before I then got into more the MMA, because when the MMA scene kind of came over, that's when the gym I was training at in Gladstone started doing MMA classes for kids. And so I actually got more into doing MMA and Muay Thai before I even started doing like Jiu Jitsu. So started out doing that. Then it just expanded from there. I was doing, then I started doing just one class, one style, to then doing the MMA kids classes, the Muay Thai kids, and then Jiu Jitsu came along, and then I was like, then me and my friends that I was training with were like, yeah, let's do the Jiu Jitsu, and it was just like 3 of us kids in a Jiu Jitsu class, it was very little, very not like,
How old were you?
So when I started Jiu Jitsu, I probably by then would have been about 10 or 11. So I was actually like...
Older.
I was older than 7.
Yeah, definitely.
So then I started doing that. And then I actually started with a boxing fight. So, and that's a different story, because it wasn't even with the gym I was training at. I trained with Gladstone Martial Arts my whole life. I had my coach there, Rob. And then my brother started doing just some boxing on the side, like one of those, just like, there was like this little shed in a car park somewhere. and the guy there, the coach there, wanted to put me and my brother into a boxing fight. And so I decided, I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And jumped into this boxing fight. Complete mismatch. Was terrible. I was crying. It was like, I got completely destroyed. Blood, nose, everything. The whole lot.
How old were you?
I would have been probably 13.
Jeez.
I would have been 13 then, and I was completely out of my depth. I was just like, and then I went back and told my coach Rob, and he was upset, because obviously I went into this, unprepared with an opponent that had so much more experience than me.
Yeah.
So then after that, he then decided to, ask me if I wanted to do an MMA fight. And so then I had my first MMA fight at the age of 14. So
That's why I called her. Yeah, she has so much story with like 22-year-old.
So yeah, from like 7 to the age of 4, by the time I was 14, I was already having an MMA fight, So that was kind of my story. Went from doing self-defense, a little bit of karate, to then jumping in the cage at the age of 14.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know a story because of course we have like a good relationship as a coach and as a friend as well. But what most impressed me is even though I think you were around 19 or 20 when I met you, and one thing was how driven you were. You were so focused with everything. Sometimes a bit too much focus.
Yes.
So counting calories, carrying a scale just to see if you're eating the proper food or not.
Yeah.
Training as crazy, 3-4 times training, going to the gym twice a day and all the crazy stuff. But all the times you were focused, you were that that's your life. It's still
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Even though like doing a little bit less than you used to do, you like your life is 100% involved with martial arts and you work with that.
Yeah.
You train, you compete, so everything like goes around martial arts. And saying this, like just mostly not only because of the fact you were so young, you were a girl, a woman.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of prejudice about like women and martial arts. Not me, not you, but most of the population that doesn't have the understanding about everything. They just think, a girl, they're gonna do a fight, or we're gonna be like on masculine, a little bit like
masculine.
Yeah, masculine.
Yeah.
Or if the girl, they're gonna be hurt or beaten. And how was this? How was to manage this in such early age as a girl, going for fights, boxing fights, MMA fights with 14-year-old?
Yeah. Yeah, it was the biggest thing I think was like just like I guess people at school as well, you know, like the shock of people like when they say, oh, you know, like asking me, you know, what I do, or and then having to tell them, oh, I'm a martial arts fighter, you know, I go in a cage fight, I have a boxing fight, and it was everyone was taken back, like people's face expressions were like, no, that can't be, you know, this like little girl, and that's the thing was because, you know, I wasn't like the type that looked like, you know, like a masculine girl, or, you know, no one, you know, would have even picked that I would do martial arts. So it was very, like going to school like with black eyes and, you know, and then the teacher's like, you know, you okay? Is everything all right? And it's like, yeah, it's just training on the weekend, you know, like, so I think the biggest thing was like people were just shocked, like they didn't see me to be a person to go in and, you know, and be fighting. And so, yeah, it wasn't like much of, I guess it wasn't a lot of, you know, like having to prove myself to anyone or do anything like that. It was more of people just, you know, being surprised, you know. It was more of like people just being surprised and being like, wow, that's pretty cool, you know, like, and it was, I guess, in the era where you were starting to see more girls doing this kind of stuff. So it was becoming more of the normal thing as I got older. When I was young, it was hard because there wasn't many girls. It was only me.
You didn't have a fight to match.
Exactly. It was so hard to find matches. Like, so I was taking, you know, anything I could get because it was really hard to find matches. And what was even harder was the training side. I never had a girl like, you know, when I was like, you know, really fight training, like to have, you know, the experience of training with different girls, you know, to get the same weight, the same, you know, I was always just training with the guys. Like it was, so it was hard because you're training with the guys all the time and obviously they're bigger, they're stronger. So to be confident in yourself was a really hard thing. Yeah. Because you never got to have that like, oh, you know, this weekend I'm going to go spar with these girls here and feel good to see my level. And
it's hard for you to manage the intensity of the training when you have like, there's no pattern, so you just have to go and give your best. So
that's it, you know.
Sometimes you want yourself too much.
It's hard, Yeah,
that's what I'd say. If you just listen to the podcast, you're gonna notice that you don't know, but Kaela is like a beautiful lady, like 158. What's your height?
Yeah, about 158.
158, like beautiful green eyes, blonde. Like, if you are in the streets and see a beautiful lady like this, don't mess with her because she can destroy you. So that's not a good part. No, just kidding. But it's important to see because, like, it's not about, like, something that you have to be some rough person, like, that do fight. So you're a normal girl, you're normal women, beautiful women. And this is really important, like, because, like, we have all this stigma of the women. I think like nowadays much better than like 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, for sure,
women are getting like, I think like we breaking all the boundaries like that you used to have when was earlier days.
Yeah.
And the beautiful lady cannot go for a fight, but as you can know, you can go for a fight and you can do a good fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Saying that, like, you said at very early age you were training like boxing, jiu jitsu. When Muay Thai came up, when was the Muay Thai came up in your life?
Yeah, well, I was doing a lot of like when I started, because like obviously I had my first MMA fight. And then I was already, training, I was training the Muay Thai classes as well and stuff. I started then transitioning into training with the adults. So I was only doing, like a couple of days a week with, the kids classes. But then already by the age of obviously 14, I was training with the adults. Had my first MMA fight. And then the Muay Thai fights come around just as well because just to have more matches. To have more experience because there was a lot of girls training Muay Thai back then, so but not much MMA. So a fight was a fight. It wasn't like I had to only do MMA. If there was a Muay Thai fight, we'd take it.
Let's go.
So exactly. So the Muay Thai fighting was just it was just all part of it. It wasn't like
Yeah, and I know that you went through like very 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 with your head first. And you had like having some adventure. You used to live in Gladstone at the time, and you have some experience in Thailand. How many times you have been in Thailand?
Yeah, so I went to Thailand 3 times. The first time we went over with like a few of my crew from Gladstone. We did like a bit of a team trip.
Nice.
So we went over there and fought in Thailand, which was a really cool experience. Like that was
different way of training.
Yeah, different way of training. Was so good. Was amazing. And it was easy because you could just, wake up in the morning, train, go home, rest, train again at night, You didn't have to worry about, like, life, pretty much. It was just training. That was it. So, went with my team and loved it so much that I went back again. So, I went back another time. And then the third time I went over after school, I decided once I finished grade 12, I was like, no, I just want to do, like, a proper stint. I want to go over and do... So, I went and did, like, 3 months of just training. I was like, once I finish school, that's it. I'm going to go do 3 months over there and just train. So
some kids would go for a gap year, fighting every time, and you're going to beating yourself under the Muay Thai guys. That's interesting. And then after that, I think like Gladstone started to become like small for the star that was coming out with Tiger. And you like, because you said it was hard to find like training hard all the time, so you end up moving to the Gold Coast. It was another adventure because you're just moving out from your parents' house in such early age. How was that? Scary?
It was very scary. It was really daunting. It was a big decision because obviously I grew up in Gladstone. I was born and raised in Gladstone my whole life. Trained at the same gym with the same people, and they got me to where I was, and I'm so grateful for that gym, for everyone, my training partners, my coach, everything like that. But then, it was like, it was almost getting to a stage where I was just feeling like I just needed more, like I just wanted, and as well, like being in a small town, like, you have the one gym. On the Gold Coast, you got so many gyms, it's endless. You got so many different people to train with. You got heaps of different girls, and then as well as not traveling every month for a competition. My parents would be driving me 8 hours to the Gold Coast, like once a month to do a jiu-jitsu comp, or it's like, and in my mind it was like, well, it doesn't make sense. I just moved to the Gold Coast, can train as much as I want, compete. All the competitions and fights are around there. Whereas, in Gladstone, you have to travel so far to do a fight, whether it's a Muay Thai or an MMA fight, jiu-jitsu competition. So, I was really feeling like almost a little bit stuck, a little bit like, and then, so I was like, no, I just needed to get out, needed to do more. So I, came to the Gold Coast to, train with Fight Club, train with Daniel, and, because obviously, we were still Fight Club in Gladstone, I was always Fight Club Jiu Jitsu, so then I was like, let's come and train with the head instructor and move down to the Gold Coast, better life, so good
strength condition coach there.
That's it, exactly. Yes, that's very true. Then I had and that was the other positive, was then I was introduced to this whole new range of coaches, like yourself, someone who's been involved with athletes, and done so many different training for all these different athletes. In Gladstone I was training myself, pretty much when it came to strength and conditioning.
Trying to
I was just doing all the wrong things, I'll go to the gym, lift this, do that, and it was like nothing was specific. So like, when I got introduced to you and and to Adam and like, the guys that really looked after me was
it's a good team, like
it was a good team.
Multidisciplinary team that we work together is pretty good, and the results are there. So I as soon as you move to Gold Coast, the things start to become a little bit more professional for you.
Yeah.
So and then where the XFC came up.
Yeah.
And you're the first bantamweight atomweight
Yeah.
champion.
Yeah.
And you defended the champion, like the belt, like afterwards, like was like I remember was like long camps, long journeys.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the adventure of going for a pretty much professional fight. With all the pressure. How was that?
It was, look, I loved every minute of it because I went from, like, it was scary because I went from training, with people that I'm used to, my coach that I was used to, and then coming here. But then when I came here to train for this fight, I never felt more prepared, because like we just said before, I had a whole team, I had you, I had Daniel, I had Gavin, I had Adam, like, I felt like I really had a good group of, different coaches. And then the experience, then being able to train with Daniel, who is, very similar to my size, but with the experience, like 10 times more. So that for me was like the biggest point of
game changer.
It was such a game changer. I really felt 100% ready, It was like the training was the best training that I'd ever done in preparation for a fight. And there obviously was pressure because, it's like, okay, move to the Gold Coast, now all of a sudden I'm going for, a title belt, and also being the first women atom weight, so it was a very, like, there was lots of firsts there. It was everything was new. I was, obviously trying to, figure out, like, being in a new town and, going straight into, okay, now I'm training for a fight, winning a belt. But it was honestly, it was like the most funnest experience because it was new. Everything was new. The training was new. I felt good.
I remember we were talking about the periodization, and you didn't understand much about, like I say, you have to do that. So Tuesday, you're going to be your technical training. What technical training?
Yes.
It's 100%. No, this day you're going to train 60%.
Yeah.
It was super hard to hold your boost because you were like always... And then in the end of the day, you start to understand, like, I need the rest.
Yeah.
Like the importance of the rest. We're going to come back with this... with the takeaways after the interval that we're gonna give to everybody, talking a little bit about preparation, mental, physical, and everything. But one question that I have for you, like about like the fight and everything, is I remember like you have like a kind of a struggle with like controlling the anxiety before the fight. And because you're training, no, I cannot stop training. And in the end of the day, Daniel came to you. We came together and said, hey, you need to do something different than training. There's nothing that you can do. You have to do like the cut weight was perfect. Your physical preparation was perfect. You're mentally ready. But on the other hand, like you're thinking too much. So there was time for you to step off.
Yeah.
How was that for you? Because it was the first time that you have like, okay, I'm going to take 2 days off before a fight. So how does it work?
Yeah, that was the challenging part because throughout all of my fighting, every fight I had, even 2 days before, I was doing something, I was shadowboxing, I was doing this, doing that, or, and obviously it's still good, to keep moving and keep rehearsing and doing all the mental kind of stuff, but this time around was very, very different because it was almost like, a different approach. Like you said, it was like, no, okay, like the week before the fight, because in my mind, it was like, you have to train hard right up until the fight, Not like, okay, the week before is
tapering.
Like, the tapering, Tapering was like, never existed before to me. I didn't like, nothing, didn't exist. So to taper before the fight was actually, it was really good, being able to have my body rest and recover but also the mental battle of fighting with myself, like, no, you can't just rest right now. You got to fight in a couple of days. Like, why are you not training? Why are you not, But then being able to have to try and listen to you guys and you guys really helped me out because you put it in black and white, like you have been, training this much, this time a week, like you're more than ready. You're fit. You're not going to lose your fitness 2 days before a fight where you should be, focusing, okay, cutting weight and doing all this stuff. And, and that's the thing is like, especially the week before, you're completely drained because you're cutting weight, So it's important that, those few days before that, it's very important like what you do specifically because you're already,
sometimes visualization, the meditation, all the things that's going to keep
completely,
you...
completely different, and like exactly like that. I think my first one, I went and did exactly like, went for like, waterfalls and, went for bushwalks and stuff like that I never did before a fight,
I remember the first thing you said to me when I get to the ring, you said, yeah, I could go for 10 more rounds.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I never felt like I was so fit, never felt more fit. Like,
yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So, no, it was really good just to do that and like have a different approach and just to do something completely different. Like, I always struggled with as well, like the mental visualization, trying to find what works for me. Because obviously,
anyone is different. Yeah.
Everyone's different. Some people have to do that. They have to be, like listening to music, or they have to be shadow boxing and like, mentally visualizing all these kind of stuff. Whereas for me, it was almost in a way better to just not think about it at all.
Yeah, because you're getting too anxious.
Yeah, the more I thought about it, the more anxious I got.
Yeah.
So for me to just go out in the bush and
do something different.
Yeah, do something different, do nothing was better for me. I think that's what worked for me better, because I never kind of figured out what worked and didn't work. Like, because everyone always talks, but you got to do this mental imagery, you got to do this, and for me it didn't work. It didn't quite fit with me.
Yeah.
I had to find my own way. Like,
yeah, I think one of the principles of training and sports training, I think everything in life when you talk about physiology and mental preparation, is the individuality principle. Every single one is a single one.
Yeah.
And sometimes what works for you not gonna work for the other people. But it's important for everybody that's listening to this. If you are an athlete, no matter what sports you are, just try to find the balance.
Yeah.
Try to listen to your body. Listen, if there's something going wrong, talk to your coaches around, their experience, so they're gonna help you out. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna talk a little bit more about this after the interval, because I'm gonna you to share some takeaways for our listeners. Okay. This episode is provided by Jiu Jitsu Grappling, Jiu Jitsu gear and courses. To check this out, go back to our episode number 2 with Kevin Hen and check our descriptions. Hey, we are back here with Kaela Banney, the Tiger. Kaela, the Tiger Banney. We just end up like talking a little bit about like the anxiety before fight. So I remember like one of the challenge part for me as a coach, together with Adam, Dr. Adam and Daniel, and even Gavin, we talk a lot about this. Like, sometimes the anxiety of the fight was like dragging you down instead of helping you to prepare. Like, instead of like being in activation, you become like you end up like not sleeping good.
Yeah.
Stop eating because you were afraid of not making the weight. Yeah. At the same time, you were like so glad to have everybody around helping you out. But on the other hand, you were all the time saying to me, I'm just don't want to let you guys down. I say, you won't. I'm sure you won't. It doesn't matter the result. You did everything. You did everything we planned to you. So I think I wanted to bring it up, like how it is, how important it is, like for you to control the anxiety, and instead of trying to do, how would you say that? Like, instead of doing something to please someone, try to just rely on yourself and bring this to normal life.
Yeah.
Can you link this?
I can try. It's very hard. Like, it's a very, like, this subject, like with the anxiety and letting people down and being a fighter. Like, I don't know if it's as well, like we're talking about the female and male, like, I don't know if it's different for males, because I found as a female, and my coach from Gladstone always knew this, like, every time I would cry during training, for example, he was used to it because he's trained girls before. So he understood, we're emotional as it is in life anyway. Yeah. But then being a fighter, like, with the anxiety and letting people down, I found myself, it does drag your training down, because, when you're training, like, I can be in the middle of doing a sparring round, and in my mind, you're already talking so bad to yourself, and you don't realize you do it. You're talking so bad, like, like, how come you missed that? Then you're underneath, on the bottom getting punched in the face, and then it's hard to make that switch from, talking to yourself, saying how bad you are, and, what happens if this happens in the fight? You're going to let everyone down, and, you're doing terrible. And then in your training session, your training just gets worse and worse as that training session goes on, because of the negative self-talk you're having with yourself. Overthinking, exactly. That's the key word. Is when I was training, I would be overthinking so much that it brought my training down. And it's the combination of everything, exactly like that, trying to find that balance, because you're already tired. you're already exhausted. You're already thinking about cutting weight. You're mentally, and then, you know, I find myself like, you know, and it's important for people to know this, that, you know, especially girls out there that are training, and, you know, because not a lot of girls talk about this. You know, I've listened to a couple podcasts from some, you know, BJJ athletes, and I'm like, oh, then you realize I'm not the only one, you know, because like in the middle of a training session, I just feel like crying. And you don't know why. You're just like, you're getting punched in the face, and rather than, you know, like wanting to train hard, and, you know, you get those days where you're in the middle and you just want to cry and you just can't help it. And I don't know if that's, you know, in your mind, you don't even know. I don't know if it's me thinking about letting people down, or me just being hard on myself, or the anxiety of the fight coming up, just everything together, you know? And you
I
almost...
think it's pretty much everything
it's everything,
together. It's like a boiling situation.
And like, and yeah, I don't know, like, you know, it's important, like I want, you know, like for the listeners out there and other girls to realize that it does happen, you know, like, and I think for me it happens a lot as well, obviously.
Don't quit.
Yeah, exactly, you know, and you do almost got to do like a mental reset, because if you're like that in the middle of a training session and, you know, the rest of your training is going to be bad, and then it's like a domino effect, because then you're not performing well. So then you're even more upset with yourself.
Yes.
It's a complete domino, you know, because then you're like, oh, you get upset with that one little thought that comes into your mind, and then it just snowballs down. And then your whole training session's bad, and then the anxiety, and then that night you can't sleep because you're like, man, you know, that training session was terrible. How am I going to go into a fight? You know, and like you were saying with letting people down, is like, I had this whole team and it was amazing because everyone was helping me. But then as well, the pressure of like, you know, okay, I've got
not from us.
No, not from you guys. No, of course not. Internal pressure, because you guys sacrifice so much time to help me.
Nah,
and that,
it's our job.
Yeah, but that was hard. Yeah, and I know that, but it was hard. Obviously, obviously at the time, you know, you think like, oh, these guys are sacrificing, you know, their, you know, hours in the day for me to train me, you know, like, and yourself calling me up, you know, making sure I'm okay, you know, making sure I'm resting, doing all this, and then. So obviously, you know, like, I know you guys want to help me and you just don't care of the end result, you know, but obviously in my mind as well, I'm like, okay, it's, you know, I don't want to let these guys down, because it was almost like I wanted to make your guys' time worthwhile, you know, in my mind. Like, I'm like, okay, I want all the time they sacrifice for me to be worthwhile. I want to go and give them a good performance and show them that, you know, they did a good job to coach me. You know, like, so that was hard to deal with. Like,
this is something interesting, because like for us to bring up for the other athletes that are listening to this, it's not about like only fight, like any kind of sport, and it's very common. It's more common with women, but it's common for every gender. And the main thing, like, that everybody needs to understand, like, of course, there's different types of human, there's different types of athletes, there's different types of coaches. Some coaches push a little bit harder, another one not so hard, but in the end of the day, it's good for the athlete to understand that it's not about the coach, it's not about you. So we are doing this, and it doesn't matter the result. For me, the outcome doesn't matter. Like, since you did like everything, I sometimes I can make a mistake and do not organize good the training intensity, the volumes, the recovery and everything. It's same with Daniel. So we are under pressure too. So, did I did it right or not? Of course, with the experience, you start to minimize the mistakes. You mitigate the mistakes a little bit, but you never know. Like, every single one, like, the season is different. We live in like a different season now with the COVID and everything, like we were talking before. But it's important for everybody that listen that don't worry about the outcome, because we are together in the journey, no matter what the outcome comes. If you're gonna win or lose, we are together. And we're gonna stay together. Like I said to you, like, if you want to stop fighting, no problem, I'm with you. If you don't want to stop fighting, I'm with you. Doesn't matter. We're gonna be bundled together for the rest of your life. And it's interesting because, like, women, like, I have like a wide range of athletes, and the women is the one that I always like you. I think you and my daughter was like the two athletes that I had. They're so committed, so disciplined, so easy to talk, to communicate. Like, males are sometimes too extreme. They don't want to listen. Many of you have to point some mistakes. They don't like to take the mistakes. But that's the part of the life. Together with that, do you bring something from the fight that you use in your normal life? Because now at uni,
Yeah.
you are a personal trainer, so you have like some sessions as a personal trainer. You are an instructor at Fight Club as well. So how do you manage all your life? Do you bring something from that you learn with the fight martial arts that you use in your life to manage novel things like errands and stuff?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with my fighting and my life was, I think like you said before, it was the discipline. It was very much like it changed me. Like I don't know how I would actually be. I don't know what personality I would have if I didn't have my fighting background. You know, like because
you start so young.
Yeah, I started so young, so it really has made me who I am today. And I think the biggest thing is like the discipline side of things, because you know, like from a young age, I was, you know, okay, I had to train at this time, you know, I had to sleep at this time, or I, you know, I had to eat this, I had to eat a certain way. And so now when it comes to, I guess, tying that in with life, yeah, it's a lot to do, I guess. I don't know, it's a hard question to answer, because it's who I am. Like it really made me who I am. So now, like, okay, you know, it's the discipline of like, you know, okay, being an instructor and, you know, eating the right food and, you know, trying to balance everything. And I guess like because I'm so committed, when I do something, I want to do it all the way. You know, like you said with uni, okay, I'm starting uni, and so it's like, okay, when I study, I'm like, okay, I want to try and study everything. You know, it's like I want it all. I don't want to just do, you know, like a little bit. And like, you know, or, you know, working for Fight Club, you know, and doing this is like I want to do the best I can do. Because being a fighter, if you're not the best, well, you know, if you're not training the best, like to your maximum capacity, you're going to go into a fight and you're going to have a poor performance. So I think that transferred over to life as a positive, but also as a negative. Because then as well,
that's what I was up to ask.
You're like, because then you're an overachiever, because then you think, oh, I have to do this. I have to be, you know, like, if I'm going to do like, you know, anything, if I'm going to study, I'm going to do it 100%. You know, there's no in between.
Yeah.
And that also is a negative, because
I was up to ask you exactly like this. Like,
yeah.
I think like it helps a lot, but it's only benefits, or do you think there is some sometimes you like it too much?
Yeah.
But not only you. I used to be an athlete. I
Mm.
used to be a high-level coach. So I still coaching a little bit, but now I'm starting to learn how to relax with that. But I'm pretty much like this.
Yeah.
I'm an overthinker. I lay down on my bed. I have like different athletes in different sports, different plans, and I'm all the time like, oh my gosh, this, and that. And my wife said to me, "Hey, relax."
Yeah.
Sports is really good. Like, but there is some critical point that we have to put, like, and everything in the end, like, come back to the balance thing.
Yeah.
You have to find the balance. You have to have some days for you. You have to have some weekends, no matter what level you are, Olympics, World Championship, UFC, or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to have a time for yourself, for your family. I think this is important.
It's very important, and it's
slow down a little bit.
And it's it's very important, but it's very hard, because as well you have that guilt, because you're an athlete. So when you're an athlete, if you miss a training session, you feel guilty.
Yes.
You know, you feel like crap. It's like,
if you eat bad, you feel good.
Exactly.
If you don't sleep good, you feel good.
Yeah.
If you have a beer, you feel good.
Exactly. So then when it comes to real life, it almost is like that transferred over to everything, especially even when it came to like work. It's like, okay, I'm always thinking of, you know, like, I can't just sit down. I'm like, okay, what email do I need to send? What project do I need to work on? Or, you know, it's like, even if I've done every task for the day, I've ticked off everything on my list, I can't, it's really hard. Only just like this last year, I've been trying to figure it out. Like, even till this day, still like, okay, on a Saturday, you know, it's like in the morning, the first thing I wake up, I'm thinking about the tasks I have to do for the day. You know, it in my mind is like, it never ends, but it's because of that. It's because from being an athlete, you're so task orientated. Okay, I finish this session, I do this, I do that. It's 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And then when I don't have a fight and I can do live, it's almost like you get addicted to it. You know, you got to be 100 miles. Even if you're not addicted to like the training side, you have to be doing something, you know. It's like, okay, I got to get up, you know, I've got to like, even if it's like cleaning, you know, I got to clean the house, or I got to do this, or, you know, it's always like, and that's where the negative side came in. But obviously it's a good thing to have when it comes to your work ethic and stuff. But to have that balance is really difficult, you know, and it's, I don't know, like, it's not like I can't tell you that I've figured it out, because I haven't. I'm still very wired. I'm still
and you're still very young.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
A lot of,
you know,
have
like,
a long pathway still. Yeah. So, Kaela, you are pretty much like still training, still competing, but you're now doing like the training as instructor at Fight Club. You do some personal training, but you have the other side. You studying naturopath.
Yeah. Yep.
Naturopathy.
It's naturopathy.
Naturopathy.
Naturopathy is
my
like
Portuguese is much better than mine. But anyway, and so Kaela has a passion for natural things, so she's very into not only the naturopathy.
Yep.
Oh, that's not good. She loves the gardening thing.
Yeah.
So you're always like involved with nature, so this is pretty good. It's another thing that you're like starting to get driven to. So
and it's
bring up this side, the farming.
That's it, because it's almost like, as well, like it's an escape from all of that, because, you know, you want to have, and that's why, like, I found that this is the help for my balance, because I went from
it's good.
I guess I did find, you know, like a way to zone out, because like obviously being an athlete, you see so many different diets, so many different ways to train. You know, the new fad is out, you've got to eat this way, or now you can't eat, you know, like fat, or you can't eat this. And so it was, me to start studying was more of a journey to figure out for myself as an athlete, not to do it as like a career or anything like that. I just really started because, you know, obviously you get like, you know, injured, or you have little health problems, and then you start to see the other side. When you start to see the side of like, you know, like the natural ways of living, it's almost like you can't go back. You can't unsee what you've seen, because, you know, you start to get more informed. So the more information you get, the more you just go down that tunnel. And so I was like, I really want to learn this properly. So that's why I started to do the course, you know, because like I wanted to learn, you know, you learn all about the body, the biomechanics, you know, the metabolism, all this kind of stuff. And then, you know, finding natural alternatives to, you know, like I'm not one, like, you know, and Daniel being my instructor really helped me with that as well, because he, you know, from him being injured so much as an athlete, he learnt the exact same way. You know, he learnt the way of always getting injured, you know, and not being able to train. And he always, you know, would just like, it was almost like he's such a role model, you know, not only to me, but to everybody.
Yes.
And the way he started living his life as well, like he started looking into more the natural stuff, and it got me interested, it got me intrigued, like, oh, what do you mean?
Yeah, not only you, I think everybody around.
Yeah, everyone.
It's
so
good.
He really helped me, like, you know, and then like I just went into that realm of like, you know, and then now like
you're falling in love for
like
for the gardening and stuff.
Exactly, so like it's a whole nother like
perspective.
It's a whole nother perspective. I really did fall in love with the whole like gardening, the whole plants, all of the, you know, like all that kind of stuff, and just being with nature, because it helps you relax, you know, like as well, like we said, with the balance,
and you stay fit.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Yeah,
that's good.
When you're out working out in the garden, it's almost like it's the functional training.
Yeah, that's
then
perfect.
You're not feeling guilty. See, if I'm having a day in the garden, I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling guilty. I'm still digging. I'm still.
You just have to remember to not use one side of your body, eh?
Yeah, that's
you
it.
You have to find the balance with the muscles as well.
Yeah,
guys. So this was Kaela Banney, Kaela the Tiger Banney. I'm so glad to have you here. Like, I think we have a lot subjects to talk about. Like, we can do like 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah.
If we bring up I have some ideas for the future. So I'm bringing up something about like nutrition and about training and nutrition and what's the best, what's not the best. So we can like discuss a lot of stuff from here. But today, I'm glad to have you here. This is all for today.
Thank you.
And hope you enjoyed the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
This was Solid Sports by Solid People, the podcast that will bring the other side of the sports person. Stay tuned.